Here's Dom. He's also a top Subto student. You're doing about, what, 4 to 6 assignments a month?
Yeah, this month we have 5 contracts so far for assignment. We're hoping to get 10 by the end of the month.
Okay, so 10 a month. What's the goal for 2024?
So
10 every month?
this year
Sell me a deal?
Javier is always dude, you got something to sell me? Dude, you got something to sell me? Eventually. We're breaking up this year into 12-week year. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So this 12-week year, our goal is 30 transactions, 30 wholesale deals.
30 wholesale?
Yeah, and that's going to grow next 12 weeks and so on and so forth. All subject to, rarely ever cash. But we understand the value of cash, but we understand that right now there's a unique opportunity to hit subject to really hard. So that's what we're full throttle doing right now.
And what does your team environment look like right now?
So I'm head of dispositions. Mike, my partner, he's head of, I call him CFO, but he doesn't like that title. He's doing
Too formal?
Too formal. He's doing tax returns right now. He does all our TC work. He does all our underwriting. Nick, my third partner, he's our head of acquisitions. So he manages a team of callers. Nick T, he's doing LOI blasters with Nick.
Nice.
He also does Bird Dog for us. Me and him are doing like outreach to other wholesalers and stuff like that for JV deals. That's a growing department for us, but our main source of business right now is the LOI blaster that we're doing. We have another great caller, Garrett. He's really on that list. He just quit his job in November and he's been working with us full time, and he has another like lead source of callers that work underneath him. It's a cool pipeline that he's created under the umbrella of Gorillas, which is what we are. Go ahead.
And then you guys met in Subto. He told us that you guys met in Subto.
Yeah.
Now you guys have collaborated. What do you look for in a lender on your deals?
You've
worked with a lot of lenders now, a lot of PMLs.
I've done a lot of deals in 2023 where I put myself I've always performed, but I've put myself in a position where it feels like I'm working for someone instead of working with someone. I'm not a huge fan of short-term, 10% flat, 15% flat. I need my money back in 90 days type of deals.
We're just talking about that.
It's
tough.
It's tough, and especially you talk to a lot of people, and that's like the expectation now. And I apologize about that light.
We'll get the bulb changed.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the bulb or
it's actually a wiring issue, I think.
Yeah, it's probably a wiring issue. Yeah. But I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Yeah, short-term lenders.
Short-term lenders.
Yeah.
And you put yourself in a bad position in 2023 on short-term lending.
Yeah.
And so you're talking how you're getting 30, 60, 90 day at 10, 15% flat rates.
Yeah, I mean, especially the Crenshaw house that I drove by yesterday, and I cursed that house.
So for people don't understand, like, what do you mean putting yourself in a bad position? Was the lending term too short? Was the return too high? How do you mitigate that? How do you change? What are you changing in 2024?
I feel like 90 days is not long enough to do basically anything in real estate.
Yeah.
In 2023, I did a lot of wraps, as you know, and that's basically when you buy a property subject to, and then you find what's called a penalty box buyer who might not be able to qualify for a loan, and then that process takes more than 90 days in itself, let alone going through the process of title and everything like that. That could be another 45 days. So by the time you know it, 120 days have elapsed. You might just be under contract, and that's no guarantee that they're going to close.
Right.
So it's like, all right, well, I just borrowed 40 grand. I promised, 15% flat in 90 days. I owe that money because now I'm getting slapped with the $500 weekly late fee.
Yep.
What kind of position is that? It's a really, really tough spot to be in. And I was fortunate enough to, get out of all the short-term stuff I was in. A lot of them worked out, but some of them I had to eat a couple of bucks. But great learning lessons, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, and so now you're looking for longer term, 12 months plus or 24 months. Like I was just telling him, my goal is to curate the lenders who are maybe in Subto or maybe people outside of Subto that want to lend for 12, 24, 36. Ideally for me, if I'm doing a buy and hold, I want to see at least 24 months.
Yeah.
At 12% annualized. I'm going to cross collateralize because a lot of these Subto deals that we're taking down don't have any equity in them.
Yeah.
So obviously the lender's gonna look at that as high risk to them.
Yeah.
So what I do is I'll cross collateralize one of my other assets that I have a lot of equity in and give them a nice, second lien position in that deal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So right now on the deals that I'm doing, I'm looking for 24, 36 months.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. This year I'm looking to deleverage a lot of the deals that I've leveraged with lenders with long-term debt. So Gorillas is putting aside $600 right now per deal to actually deleverage from private money that we borrowed for 12, 24-month terms to increase our ROI without increasing our risk. So borrowing more debt right now is not in our best interest, especially because I'm trying to reach that level 1 financial freedom with my cash flow. So the more money I get, the more tax liability I have. I either want to go out, use my own cash to buy another pad split, or deleverage from the debt I've already borrowed. But 12%, simple interest, for 12, 24, 36 months puts me in a good spot where I can handle that monthly payment.
That's what you're looking for now.
And still put money aside to pay down principal.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. Like everybody I've talked to, I've had like probably 10 conversations this week, and what I'm finding is there's a lot of people who want that short-term, return.
Yeah.
But there's a huge benefit on the flip side of the 24 to 36. For the people who, like you as a lender, you're going to source the deal, making sure it's, fully underwritten. Like that's a job in itself.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting on capital myself and I can go out and lend it,
Right.
but I got with Matt and I was like, dude, I don't want to be sitting here vetting deals, underwriting deals. I mean, it's a whole job. Like you can only do so many things. Now, if you have a team who's going to be dedicated doing like Gator and stuff like that, that's awesome. But I want to work with lenders who want a return on their 401k,
Right.
or their IRA, right? Or don't want it in Vanguard, and want to park it in real estate, and maybe even want an education piece like that. Like I wouldn't mind if a PML tags along with me and say, hey, I want to learn what you're doing, because it's an education piece for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I spoke to this year that are lenders that like the one thing they have in common is they all want to do pad splits, but they don't know how, right? But they don't want to do what I'm doing either, come out probably and do one of the things, but they want to know like front to back how you underwrite them. How well does your plan execute, right? Yep. So if we're going to be lending on your pad splits to potentially learn, like we want to see proof of concept, and then we want to do our own at some point. So everybody's really interested in them, and I think this year there's going to be a lot of people looking for pad splits. But the issue of the returns and the bigger amounts and the shorter time frames, I would love to see people's actual annualized returns that are taking those shorter ones and saying like, hey Dom, I'll give you 15% flat for 90 days, and then they're going to go redeploy their capital in more deals. I guarantee they're averaging less than 12% over 2 years.
Right.
The more years you go, the worse their return is. Right. But what they're going to look at is say, well, I made 20% the first quarter of this year, but then over the whole year they're like less than 10.
Right.
And it's like you're playing. I mean, you're playing a game, and unless you're,
You're saying because they don't have another deal to play right now.
You got to annualize it, and you have to.
I think you're creating a job is what you're doing.
Yeah, and now you have to. It's not super quick to. It's not that painful to get your money deployed on a deal, but like getting it out and doing the next transaction and vetting all those deals. Yeah, it's just so much work, and like I'm happy. I like literally have $4,000 remaining for my retirement. It's all deployed, getting 12%
For me.
Yeah, with one guy, and it's. The thing is with that money for me though, I always joke with Dom, like you have my entire life in your hands, because that was from the time I was 18 till 30 now. I worked in a factory to earn that money. But the reality is that money doesn't get me any of my goals, because I can't retire off that money today. There's big penalties. It's a Roth IRA, so I've already paid the taxes on it, which is great. But I can't realize those gains until I'm 65, I think. So even if it was $1 million in there right now and I was getting 50% returns, it's like you can't, it doesn't get me where I need to go immediately. So I was okay trying to get like a flat rate over a long period of time.
Yep.
Now, some people that maybe are using that money to live off of, I don't know if that's a great strategy or not. If you had a couple $100,000 and you're like, I'm going to be a lender for a living, I don't know if that's enough money to do that, because even getting a flat rate or getting big chunks from fix and flips or whatever, like that's it's not enough money. But if you have a few million, maybe, I guess for me that would work. But I think people should really analyze their lending over time and see what their annualized returns are.
Yep.
I bet you it's under 12%, unless they're really good. There's some really good people, I'm sure they kill it, but that's the minority of people.
Yeah. And then mostly, I'm coming across a lot of people they're not constantly having their capital deployed in deals, and that's why when I had a conversation with several private money lenders this week. Actually, let me borrow that real quick. Let's pass that around so I make sure I make people. When I had a conversation with a couple private money lenders this week, they'll get in a deal, they'll get paid, they'll get their money back, and then it's like now they're on the search for another deal. All that time period that you're waiting, are you really getting your return that you think you're getting? And so that's why I was trying to upsell a couple of people. I'm like, dude, this is a great deal for you to get into. One, it's low risk. You have a great operator, which is me. I'm a fantastic operator with tons of experience. I have the portfolio to back it up. I'm cross-collateralizing. We're going to draft a mortgage and a note. Like, how much more do you want? You know?
Everyone wants equity right now.
Yeah. And so, yeah, well, another flip side on that deal that I'm taking down in Jacksonville, I was talking about earlier when you were on the phone, I'm taking down a deal next week in Jacksonville at 2.75 interest rates via Subto. I said, hey, to a PMP, why don't you come in? You bring the entry fee of $49,600. I'll give you a 50% equity position, and we can split the cash flow 60-40 because there's ongoing operating expenses. I'm not going to pay him his $50,000 back, but because I sourced the deal, I underwrote the deal, I'm going to do all the ongoing management. You're buying. It's just like you playing poker. There's a buy-in for this deal. Come buy in on this deal with a good operator that's going to have a good return. That particular deal in Jacksonville is going to be a 6 cap, right? On his money, he would have been at about a 16% cash on cash, but he didn't have the vision. When I broke it down to him, still didn't have the vision.
Yeah.
But he was more so of a guy who doesn't like partnerships. So that's okay, right? So I know there's a lot of PMLs out there, and that's what I want to start building is these PMLs who want to start lending for 24, 36 months. That way they don't put you in a bad position like you were in before. Yeah. Like you said, nothing in real estate happens in 30 days, 60 days. It's very tough. Even a flip, you're talking average flip 3 to 6 months. So, you know, it takes time. And so for you to be able to get somebody paid back, you're gonna put yourself in a bad position. Then you incur late fees. How much late fees did you pay last year, Don? Thousands, because he didn't find the right private money lender, and that private money lender stuck him to the guns. Like, hey man, we agreed to this. You signed, a note with me, and you're not paying me back. You're not following the contract, right? Yeah. And so there's a penalties to that, and then you cost yourself money. Exactly. So it's a very expensive learning lesson. But I like how you guys partnered up together in Subto. And what me and Matt are creating right now is we're doing in Orlando, we're doing a Subto Gator TC meetup to where we can find more Gators. We understand Gators want to be short term, but I'm sure there's Gators out there who want to be a little bit longer term. So what we're doing is we're trying to bridge that gap from people who have the deals, kind of like what you did. He has the deal. He called, he got it under contract. Now he met up with a guy like you on Subto, and now you have the money. You guys have joined your resources, and now look, we're standing in a pad split today, right? And so I want to be able to create more of that in my local community, because it's a face-to-face thing. It's like, even though that you guys meet on Zoom and talk on the phone, now that you guys have met for the first time since you live in New York, and you live where again?
Illinois.
Illinois. Now it's so much more real, right?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like the relationship is bonded a lot more?
Yeah. You know what? It doesn't just happen that someone's like, hey, I trust you to manage my retirement money. It doesn't just happen like that.
Yeah.
Me and Nick spend probably dozens of hours a week talking constantly. Yep. We have a very good relationship. Mm-hmm. So all of that culminated into what we're standing in right here, and the trust that we built, and like just the opportunity to like meet each other face to face in person. He's got a family, I'm doing my own thing. So, it doesn't come around a lot that we have the opportunity to do something like this. And to, we put a face to a name every day on Zoom, and we've known each other for, how long have we been working together? 8 months?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, 8 months of talking, 5-6 days a week, hours and hours, but putting a face to a name in person and getting that relationship just makes it really solidifies it. So, and building furniture until 1 o'clock in the morning together.
Yeah.
Is also
no joke.
a good bonding experience.
Yeah.
It's also a good bonding experience. It's like, hey, I know what you're doing over there. We could probably switch because I've been watching you this whole day, and we can know how to build each other's furniture now.
Yeah.
So, good learning experience. He was teaching me how to use power tools because I usually hire people to do that stuff for me. So, good times.
Yeah, I leverage all that stuff out. So like when I do my pad splits, what I'll do is I'll hire somebody on either Thumbtack or TaskRabbit. I've been telling you about this for a long time. Dude, I love these sites because when you're in a market where, let's say, you don't have a Rolodex of contractors, you can go on these sites like TaskRabbit and Thumbtack, and you can get some awesome contractors out of there.
The guy who did the contracting for this property, who did all these rooms, I found him on Thumbtack. I found him on Thumbtack. He did Crenshaw for me.
Who told you about Thumbtack?
He did. He did.
Dude, and it's awesome. And so what Thumbtack's done, they're a platform that streamlined the process for contractors. Are you familiar with Thumbtack?
No.
Okay. A lot of people aren't, and which is surprising. Every time I talk to people, they're like, Hobby, man, I need a good contractor. Like him, he knew that I was in Florida. He's like, yo, bro, do you have any good contractors in Florida? I was like, Dude, actually, you know what? I'm very familiar with the Tampa area, but I don't have a good Rolodex of people over there. I could probably refer you a one or two, but why don't you just go on Thumbtack? And sure enough, he went here on Thumbtack. I walked around the property today, and the workmanship around here is phenomenal. I look at a lot of projects. Like, he did a great job. Everything is well organized. Everything looks like it's intact. Like, it looks like he did like everything down to the T. Now, I'm sure you can find little things, but he did a really good job. He showed up on time.
And he started December 21st, and he was done by January 4th.
Yeah.
So he finished this in 2 weeks, and it wasn't like nothing. He rerouted electric. He rerouted some HVAC. He converted the garage. He made a hallway to make the master bedroom into a public access bathroom. Mm-hmm. He did a lot of work. You know, sanding, everything like.
And it was just one guy you had to deal with.
Yeah, it was one guy. It was a guy and his son, and then they hired the crew that they work with, and they just brought him on, and he sent progress pictures after each draw. It was a 40-40-20, mm-hmm. and Gary's right over here, so
yeah.
Gary shoots up when he feels like he wants to, because he's Gary. But
yeah, I know. I was hoping he was going to be here today.
He's going to be here. You'll see him before we get out of here, But yeah, it's good to have boots on the ground too, because you don't want to just trust the contractor that you find. But as far as this job goes, I'm super satisfied.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to bring up to what he just said was he paid the contractor 40, 40, and 20. What that means is that contractor requested 40% up front, probably for materials. Then after progress went on, for so long, he gave another 40%. And then when the job was done and Gary walked around here in his little slippers, he probably gave him another 20%, right, to finalize the project. So it's important when you guys are hiring these contractors, not only are you vetting them. When I'm hiring people off of Thumbtack, what I'm looking at, some of the prime things I'm looking at, are they pulling up in marked vehicles, right? That tells me if they're investing in their business. Do they have a Google presence? I'm looking up their business name. You can ask them for insurance. You can look at their Thumbtack reviews. See how legitimate these people are. If they're investing in their business on those type of ways, you know that they're a serious contractor. You're not just dealing with somebody who just came off the street and looking to tack some nails and steal your money. Being that we're in a business where people steal your money all the time, contractors are one of the most prevalent people that steal. I've had $40,000 stolen from me from a contractor one time. And I tell you, ever since then, I try to be a lot more methodical about my process. Even last year, I had a contractor steal $20K off from me. And I'm experienced, by the way. But I was managing a project in North Carolina. He was building a deck. I put too much trust into this guy. So you're always learning. But these are really good things to look for when you're hiring a contractor are they pulling up in a marked car? Are they sending you a contract for work? Do they have employees or do they have contractors? If they have employees, they're more invested in their company. Why? Because they have payroll. Yeah. They're pulling up in a marked car and they're doing Google advertisements and they're running SEO ads. They're more invested in their business. These are key indicators that tell you if this contractor is legitimate or not. Are they really invested in their business? Now, I'm not saying you can't get a good contractor otherwise, because this guy probably sounds like he was maybe a little bit smaller.
He had a AC Tech license, I think. So he had like licenses, and he was licensed and insured and everything that he was doing. He had a marked car.
He had a marked car.
Yeah, he did. He's done prior work for me in the past, which obviously you're not going to know until you do that. And that means something, but it doesn't mean everything.
Yep.
So that prior job might have been $5-6 and now it's like, hey, here's a $30,000 job. Now he could take off with my money at that point because it's serious money. But he had a lot of the things in place to make me feel comfortable. He was very communicative. I didn't have to prompt him to send me pictures. He would take videos and send them to me as things were going on. And it made me feel good to say, hey, based on these pictures, here's your next draw. And then Gary will go there and walk it, and because he's got to pay his crew. They don't work for free, and they expect payment immediately. So the last payment, of course, you want to do a final walkthrough before you finish that up. But as far as my vetting process goes, that's kind of how we did it here.
Yeah. So a couple other things you guys want to consider is when you're also hiring contractors, it sounds like to me he put all his trust into one guy to do the electrical, the walls, the HVAC, etc. You can spread your risk by hiring different trades for all those. But the problem is now you're managing several different people. So if you can really find one good person to do it all, that's better because you're only dealing with one person, one crew. Now, if you want to spread your risk, you want to hire those guys out. But that's a whole different vetting process, like I just mentioned, for each individual trade, right? And so that's a lot of work itself. Yeah. So if you're newer, you might want to spread your risk a little bit. But if you're more experienced, like you guys, I'm okay with getting a feeler for somebody who's like this guy who can do all the work, and I don't have to work with 17 different people to get one job done, right? That's actually this is not a huge job. It's, to me, this is something that, like you said, 1 to 2 weeks, this guy's in and out of here. You have the right crew, you have the right expertise and the right tools, you're going to be in and out of the deal, no problem. So yeah, that's super important. So let's walk around this place. We have a 7-bedroom, 8-bedroom, 7-bedroom, 2-bath pad split. It was previously a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
That's correct, and then had the Florida room in the back that we just kept. And
Okay.
calling it a bedroom